This is our homily for Sunday, December 29th, the Feast of the Holy Family. Many years ago, when I called my parents to wish them a Happy New Year, my dad answered the phone. "Well, Dad, what's your New Year's resolution?" I asked him. He answered, "To make your mother as happy as I can all year." Then Mom got on the phone and I asked her, "What's your resolution, Mom?" And she replied, "To make sure that your dad keeps his." Today we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family. Last Sunday and at the Christmas Masses, we have heard the very familiar and beautiful stories that surround the birth of Christ. It's important to note that the dreams of Joseph and the Annunciation to Mary are part of a pattern of the births of important people in the history of salvation. For example, the births of Isaac, Samuel, John the Baptist, all involved dreams. Scripture scholars emphasize that Annunciation stories or dreams are a literary device, a way in which the author is saying that the people were so in touch with God that they were able to discern God's will and follow it, even though they couldn't understand exactly what was happening or how it would happen. This is important to remember. Without understanding this, we really can't identify with Mary and Joseph because their experience would have been so different. Startlingly different. Most of us have not had an angel appear to us. And it is important to be able to identify with Mary and Joseph. Look at their reality. Mary was pregnant before she should have been. She must have been concerned, to say the least, about the reaction of Joseph and her family. She could have been stoned to death or left without a husband for life. Joseph must have been confused, even hurt, at the apparent betrayal by Mary. They needed to travel when travel was difficult, especially for a pregnant woman, and there was no dignified place for them to give birth. Next, they became refugees in a foreign land where they would not have been welcome and would have been looked down on. Then Jesus is lost for 3 days in a big city. This is a different reality than the sweet scenes we are used to seeing in religious art at Christmas time. But Mary and Joseph lived through it, found God's will, and brought Christ the light into the world and helped him mature with solid values. As we're told in the 2nd chapter of Luke, Jesus grew in wisdom and age and favor before God and man. All of this growth was happening during the 30 years he lived with his family, preparing him for his public ministry. How did this happen? I think the reading from Colossians gives us one answer, and I quote, "Put on as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another if one has a grievance against another, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also do. And over all of these, put on love. That is the bond of perfection. And let the peace of Christ control your hearts." End quote. My friends, it's all about relationships, right relationships, relationships that are full of heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. In short, love. Can you imagine a family where the adults live these virtues, where they bear with each other and forgive each other? Can you imagine how wonderful it is for children that learn these virtues by watching the adults in their family? The father in the opening joke was not far off in his New Year's resolution to make his wife as happy as possible. And if she is doing the same, then all of them, especially the children, will be happy. Our difficulties and struggles may not be the same as those of Mary and Joseph, but we will have them. But if we can practice the virtues that St. Paul lists for the Colossians, then Christ's peace will control our hearts, and we will be able to find God's will, as did Joseph and Mary. I invite us to reflect on that passage from Colossians in these next days, resolving to grow in our ability to live the virtues listed by Paul. Maybe a good New Year's resolution will pop up. God bless.